In video 3 of lesson 1, the importance of proper math terminology will be emphasized as we review translating mathematical statements to expressions and equations, as well as taking linear expressions and equations and writing them in words. As we begin this lesson, let's review some of the mathematical language you may need. No doubt you will be familiar with most, if not all, of these words. The tables have been arranged according to the four main operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And we look at a few words or expressions that can be used for the concept of equality. So for addition, we have words like plus, add, more than, sum, increased by, and, combined, together, in all, total. For subtraction, minus, subtract, less than, difference, decreased by, reduce, diminished, dropped, remaining. Multiplication, words like times, twice, of, product, multiplied by, doubled, tripled. For division, out of, halved, split, quotient, divided by, cut, per. And then a few words or expressions for the idea of equality: equals, is, are, is equal to, results in, the same as. These are some of the more common words, and these are certainly not all-inclusive lists, meaning there are other words that could easily be put into these tables. These are just some of them. So let's have a close look at translating from statements to expressions or equations. So for each of the statements, write the corresponding expression or equation as required. We have the sum of a number and 6 is 11. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to underline some of the key words, like sum. That's really important because that gives me my operation. A number, 6 is, that's what tells me that I'm going to have an equal sign over here. So I'm going to put that in right away. And of course, 11. So the sum of a number and 6. Well, the first thing I need to do is to come up with some sort of symbol for number. So I'm going to use probably the one you're most familiar with, and that's the letter N. So the sum of a number and 6. Well, I can put down N plus 6. Is, I already got that put in, that's my equality sign, 11. N plus 6 equals 11. This is an equation. We could also put here, I'll just make a note, if you put down 6 plus N equals 11, that's quite all right for this one too. The operation of addition is a little bit more forgiving than subtraction. Let's look at B. 4 times a number decreased by 5. Now, the first thing I'm going to note here is that there's nothing that would indicate an equation. This particular example will be a linear expression. I'm going to be consistent here, and I'm going to use the variable n all the way through. If you're not given a variable, you can certainly choose whatever variable you want. So 4 times a number, 4 times n. And please remember how we've talked a bit before. The best way to write down 4 times a number is just to put the 4 and then the variable right after. We don't need to put in our multiplication sign. Don't need any confusion with the variable x. We don't need brackets here even. So just 4 in, 4 times a number. Decreased by, that would be subtraction. And what are we decreasing it by? 5. So 4n, subtract 5. C, the quotient, there's a big word. The quotient of a number and 3 results in 9. The results in piece here, that's my clue that we have an equation. I'm going to put my equal sign in over here. Quotient, what operation is that? That's division. So the quotient of a number and 3, I'm going to write my division as a fraction. So n over 3, or n divided by 3. And again, I've used n as my variable. Results in equals 9. So n over 3, or n divided by 3, equals 9. If you happen to put in this and divided by 3 equals 9 like that, that's quite all right as well. In D, 8 less than double the number. I got 8 less than, that's implying subtraction. Double would be like a multiplication by 2. And a number, I'm going to use my variable n once again. With subtraction, you got to be extra careful. And we have to read this one very, very closely. So it's 8 less than double a number. The 8 less than part, even though those are the first words in our mathematical statement here, that part in our expression, this will be an expression because there's nothing there to indicate an equation. The 8 less than part will have to come after the double a number. For double a number, the best way to write that is just 2n, meaning 2 times n, and then 8 less than that, subtract 8. If you happen to write this down, 8 subtract 2n, that would be incorrect here. Be very careful. 8 less than double a number, you got to double up the number first and then take 8 away from it. In E, the product of a number and 3 is 15. Product, very important word here. That indicates multiplication. A number, I'm going to use n, and 3 is, that's an important word because that tells me I actually have an equation, and then 15. So I'm going to put in my equal sign over in the blank. The product of a number and 3. So I need 3 times a number. Best way to write that, 3n is, got it there, equals 15. So my equation, 3n equals 15. Just to point out a couple of other little things here too. If you were to write down this, n3 equals 15, not incorrect, but not recommended. You could use brackets here. That's certainly not wrong. Again, not necessary. We could go, and students will write this, 3 times n equals 15. Not wrong, but to avoid potential confusion with the variable x, I'm going to recommend that we just go with the 3n equals 15. So I would encourage this as my answer. Now let's go the other way, translating from expressions or equations to mathematical statements. And for these expressions or equations, I'm going to give you 2 possible answers, but there are potentially several, depending on the words you decide to choose. So let's have a look at a few. So in A, we have 3 plus 6y. One way that we can write this, the sum of 3 and 6 times a number. We could write 3 increased by a number multiplied by 6. B, we have a 5m subtract 2 equals 8. To put that in words, I could say 5 times a number decreased by 2 is 8. I could also say 2 less than 5 multiplied by a number is 8. In C, n over 2 equals 7. We could say a number divided by 2 is 7. I could say half of a number is 7. 10x, 10 times a number, or a number multiplied by 10. In E, we have another equation, 3 equals p plus 4. Here we can say 3 equals a number increased by 4. We could say 3 is the same as 4 added to a number. So these are just some possible answers for these expressions and equations. You may be able to think of others. And now I'd like you to proceed to the activities for Lesson 1.